if Trump ends the Fed and basically goes back to a Treasury issued dollar, which is well within the Constitution to do you think this could destroy their one world currency plan, or do you think there's no stopping them at this point?
Not a chance. Even if mucus and the Fed were out of the way, everything else would just cave in on it. The ECB still there, Japanese central bank still there, IMF still there. I mean, there's a million other players that would fill the vacuum in a second.
Okay, I'm your host, James White. This is Northwest Liberty News. We have a returning guest, someone I consider a good friend. We used to broadcast together. He's been on top of most everything you see going on right now that you see in the day-to-day news. He's been talking about for years. I'm delighted to have David DigiByte on the broadcast. He's one of the smartest cats I know, especially when it comes to weather patterns, food shortages, and things that he's been talking about. I mean, we've both been talking about for a long time. He has Adapt 2030 YouTube channel. I know now he's got, I think, over 100,000 subscribers on his channel. We're delighted for his success, and he puts out regular reports. David DiGByte, thanks so much for joining us here on Northwest Liberty News. Oilseedcrops.org. And go ahead, David, why don't you, before we go on to the next one here, is that a cheese grater?
That is a grow light. See, this is the most quirky thing. You've talked about two things that I just have laying around that I'm working with as we speak. I'm going to be setting up this as a grow tray here to do microgreens just on a regular rack. And this is a new grow light that's all one spectrum LED. I'm not selling this. I'm actually using it because I believe in it. So let me plug it in and take a look at the coloration on this thing.
There we go. Wow, look at that. Nice. You can probably grow quite a bit under that, David.
Yeah, and it radiates out. It's a full foot, so it radiates out about 6 feet down because it's at 120 degree for every single one of those small lumens in there, and these are all one spectrum LED. And these are the kind of grow lights that I'm using. So when you talk about solutions as such, that if I'm at this level here where I got books about canning laying around in my front room that I could literally just go grab it in 2 seconds, I got a LED grow light that I'm working with for microgreens on a tray. What are you doing this week while you're home? The reason, when we finish with this, the reason I was out and coming back, we bought a bunch of wood today to do raised grow beds. So, right. A majority of my day today has been just focused around agriculture, grow beds with the wood, vertical ag, taking a look at the canning book, and going out and planting seeds for the sunset tonight. Because, the moon right now is at its low phase. So right now it's spring and it's new moon. So if you plant now, you get some really good harvests as we're coming in. It's like the double goodness right now, new moon and the beginning of the month here with the last frost for us at least. So it's going to be the great time to go. So what have you been doing? If I can do these things, you can do it too. And these are the solutions that we're all going to need to move to self-sufficiency. And if you're able to overproduce, then be able to buy, sell, or trade with others who aren't producing, that can give you something back in value as well. Because we're all not going to be able to grow food, but we all have skills and talents that you could then make something. Leathercraft, metal crafting. I mean, there's a million things that other people do that I don't have the time to. I don't have the time to cook cakes and breads. How about if I trade you vegetables for bread that you cooked?
No, right on.
I'll even grow you the wheat or the buckwheat or the millet or the sorghum.
Well, and that's what I was going to say to you. We're going to have to go back to some old school skills like the canning. Now, I'm really intrigued by this book that you held up where you can basically can in 10 minutes and you don't have to do the boil, because I think that's what you put the cans in, you got to boil them in the water and then you do the vacuum thing. You're saying that you don't have to do all that with this book that you have there, right?
No, this is just for vegetables, and you do get the vacuum seal setting, but it's not like the high heat and high pressure that you would need for meat and that sort of thing.
On.
Like to do this very short amount of time for 10 minutes to do vegetables, very easy. But this is the brine bath kind of thing. You can make sauerkrauts and different kind of just acidic brine baths, basically, pour overs. But if you're going to talk about canning meat that you want to get that seal at 40 minutes under pressure cooking, that's an entirely different skill set to put these together. Although they require lids, they require the jars and everything else between the rings
It's all the same, but it's just the length of time and the thing that you're putting in the jar. Vegetables versus meat, it's a completely different thing.
I know you don't get any sponsorship for this, but people in the chat room are asking if you can hold up the book and give the name of the person on
Yeah,
that
no,
book.
I don't. This is absolutely free information. I encourage everybody to, and you should be doing the same. If you know something that can improve people's lives, you should be giving away for free. You know, I mean, there's a point to charge for things, and if you're doing consulting and this sort of stuff.
So it's
But when it
called
comes down to these simple things, like this is a book I bought off of Amazon
Can It and
because
Ferment
I'm really
It.
interested in the canning aspect of it. Right?
Is that so Shebane? Is that Shebane something? Shebane at the bottom?
Stephanie Turow.
Sorry, it's hard to see. Stephanie
Thurow. Now, the reason I like it is because I have these 75 recipes in here and the color photos, and it shows you step by step how to do it. So I went through an enormous amount of books looking for this type of thing. Like, you know, I was looking at one of these like pickled fennel because I want to get some fennel, and we can get that here and it grows pretty well. So again, it's all about regionally where you want to grow things and what grows well in your area. Like, but not everybody can get fennel. Some people are going to get pumpkin. You know, it just depends on seasonal canning. Again, like I've been working with dehydrating too, cutting apples, dehydrating some apples, although we had some good luck. I even opened a can of green beans and dehydrated those. They turned into like these things that were about the size of spaghetti. And I just been experimenting with a lot of stuff just to see what happens when you dehydrate, or when making dried apples, dried gooseberries, dried some mushrooms. We had a whole bunch of thyme and out there. We cut it up, dried it in there too, made powder out of it, put it in a coffee grinder and made powder. So fennel, thyme. What else do we have down? Sage. There's like these different types of plants that you can do yourself. Put them in the, dry them out, spin them up, turn them into a powder. There's an enormous amount of things you can do, but we're gonna have to start thinking more pioneering a lifestyle doing it. So what can you grow easy? What can you can easy? What can you preserve? So the only thing I tell you from personal experience, what I do need are the oxygen packs, which I don't have any of, which I need oxygen packs, because when you put them in, I'm already finding some caking happening on the time that we spun out. We put it in the oven, dried it at like 150 for an hour. We just waited. We just felt it until it was dry. There was no specific time. After it was dry, we removed the stems and put it into a coffee grinder and turned it into a powder. But now that powder seems to be caking. But if there was an oxygen pack inside, I think it would resolve that problem. So I want to know what they were doing in the 1800s when they didn't have O2 packs. What did they do?
Yeah, good question. Well, there's a I don't know. I wish I knew. There's changes going on everywhere, David, as we know, and I think one of the changes that we're going to see is probably in the financial system. I don't know which way it's going to go. I know they've been floating, a digital currency. I believe in one of the bills that Nancy Pelosi tried to hold up for the relief fund. I think in one of those bills she had a digital currency. I forget the name of the. Is it Ripple? What's the name of the one that was?
Yeah, you must have watched my video from yesterday, didn't you? Yeah, Ripple. It was XRP.
Oh, XRP.
It's a central bank digital currency, SBDC, and they're going to be running on distributed ledger technology using R3 and Ripple for distributed ledger. They're not going to go anything blockchain. It's going to be an independent protocol.
No, actually, I didn't have a chance to watch your video, David. I don't.
Oh, well, that's exactly what it was about. Was this whole thing inside the second stimulus bill? They've reintroduced it, and now on the third stimulus bill, which will come up, be forthcoming, they're actually going to try to put it through, because they were looking at what the adoption and thought idea moving forward with this. Now, the digital dollar project is where you're going to want to look. And what's most interesting, the digital dollar project is now connecting over into this new push forward for the digital currency, and the Canadian company, I forget, it escapes my name, something net. They just come out with the announcement because they do distributed disruptive technologies, and they were saying that they were totally ready for this central bank distributed ledger digital dollar to come out, that they had the workings to connect with it. And then get this, the person who's leading this project that's called the Dollar Project is the former director of the CFTC, Futures and Exchange Trade Commission. Now, they were the ones who stopped in 2017 most ICOs from moving forward. But it's just funny that the same person who was stopping all ICOs in 2017 is now the lead on the Dollar Project, pushing for the central bank digital currency through the Fed issuance, the Federal Reserve issuance. They were just stopping ICOs because they didn't want too much competition before they could unveil this Fed coin or whatever it is, central bank digital currency, because they didn't want to compete. See, this is
right. When Bitcoin was at a run up and it got up to what, 18 something, 17, $18,000, they pulled the plug on it, because I think at that point they knew pretty soon they'd be getting out of control. Now, you telling me, I didn't see a video. I wish I will. I didn't know that.
I thought you did, because when you said that, I was like, oh, that's what I talked about yesterday. Yeah, it's quirky. It's like the third time this has happened today.
I know. No, are they talking about you? Did I hear you say it's not going to be on the blockchain? It's not going to be a blockchain. So it's going to be controlled by them.
It's a distributed ledger settled every 3 minutes. It's going to be DLT is the protocol that they're using. They're going to be choosing R3. And I've actually met a couple guys from R3 when I was over in Taiwan. And they're going to be using Ripple. Because unbeknownst to me, until I did a lot more research on Ripple the last few days, they have instant liquidity in there. And I'm like, oh, so the overnight repo market crashes. They can't get to liquidity. But then they're moving over to distributed ledger through Ripple and XRP and RippleNet that gives liquidity across the planet through a central bank and payment systems, providers, bank to bank, company to bank, and everything in between, credit cards as well as PayPal and Payoneer, all moving on the overnight, but they're getting instant liquidity as the planet's moving through those 8-hour durations. Isn't that so interesting as well?
So basically, this really is they really are looking for a one world currency.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this will essentially end up being. It'll be controlled by the Fed. Now, have you? No. I'm
Thanks
saying,
for making my day, James. You just made my day.
So let me ask this. So I understand that now it was in Yahoo News, if you can believe that, but it was reported in other places as well, that the Treasury, the Fed's been sort of merged into the Treasury, or at least in the process of doing that. And Mnuchin is in control of the Fed right now because he's the Treasury Secretary. Do you see Trump moving to end the Fed? Is that something that you see possibly happening? And if Trump ends the Fed and basically goes back to a Treasury issued dollar, which is well within the Constitution to do you think this could destroy their one world currency plan, or do you think there's no stopping them at this point?
Not a chance. Even if Mucus and the Fed were out of the way, everything else would just cave in on it. The ECB still there, Japanese central bank still there, IMF still there. I mean, there's a million other players that would fill the vacuum in a second. So just because one's gone, I mean, there's so many others that would take its place. And everybody talked about ending the Fed, and the Fed. Well, that's really not going to do anything. You need to end the Fed, the ECB, the IMF, and also the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements, and then maybe we can make some headway. But until they're all taken out, nah.
And we're not just talking. These aren't just folks. We're talking trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars at stake here. And when I say trillions and trillions,
so how much will Ripple be worth? If you got, let's say you said trillion. Let's do 3 trillion a day moving through, and that's kind of a low number anyway. Let's make it 5 trillion. 5 trillion on settlements per day moving through the RippleNet system and R3. What do you think the price of XRP would go up to? It's not financial advice, but I'm always guessing it. Okay, we saw $3 at the height of 2017. It's currently around 20 cents, hovering between 20 and 30 cents. But if it started to be used for all the settlements, I mean, what do you think that it might value at?
A lot higher. I don't know. We haven't even thrown gold or silver into the mix. I mean, you can't print that. You can't print gold and silver. So, I mean, I think it's going to have some role. Maybe it's just going to be in sovereign debt settlements, between nations. I don't know. That's what it's kind of like what it is now. Apparently that's what I was understanding Bitcoin. Of course, what we were told, what the experts thought was that Litecoin was going to be like silver, going to be passed amongst the folks, and Bitcoin would eventually be settled debt between sovereign nations. Don't know if that's even going to happen. Don't know if they come out with their own digital currency, much like right now, they're not going to want any competition. They're not going to want any competition. Just like you can't go out and print David's dollar and you start distributing it around, because they'll come and kick your doors down, and they'll stop that pretty quickly because they don't want competition. So is it just going to only be XRP? I mean, will that be the only they certainly can't get rid of all these other Bitcoins or these other digital currencies, can they?
No, I'd say you're right. You're talking about sovereign settlements or large sums between companies for the XRP distributed ledger. But, going down to that day-to-day instantaneous buy a pack of gum type of payment thing, I have been told, and doing a bunch of research, maybe DigiByte or Stellar Lumens at that point coming down, because it's that super fast and it can, that small value in it. And Litecoin, I don't know where it sits, but you ever get Stellar transferred, it's instantaneous basically. And so is DigiByte. So those two for sure. And I keep hearing them again and again. They keep cropping up in strange conversations. But yeah, to answer your question on what might be used in a daily settlement. And, I don't think everything's going to go away. I think it's going to require a full combination of ABCDE, GHDK, aluminum, PR, QRS, all the way down to reformulate an entire monetary system, including gold and silverback currencies, including maybe using land. Like the IMF always wants to talk about using natural resource coin, something like this, where they use a country's natural resources, whether it be forests, water, whatever, to have a value to base something on for type of cryptocurrency issuance. And then, with all the distributed ledger, and then we got the Bitcoin. And I think it's going to just take a whole resolve of a combination of, because to distribute it out, if you're going to the distributed way anyway, that's what they would want, is a distributed amount of economy. And, because look how many mediums you could use, and it's sort of distributed ish, but still seems to be controlled by a lot of puppet strings at the top. And especially that new IMF coin, please. IMF coin. Fed coin's bad enough, but IMF coin. See my eyes rolling in the back of my head here. Sheesh.
Well, David,
what do you think about that IMF coin?
Well, come on, man. I mean,
I see. Yeah,
exactly. IMF? Are you kidding me? I mean, they're really what these organizations really have been put in place to do is to be money launderers for the elite. It really is. I mean, look how many of these backroom deals are finding that went on behind the scenes, money passed all through the IMF and kicked back. And I mean, it's all a fraud, dude. It's all a scam. I mean, we're all the milk cows, sadly. But I mean, I think that's the good news is, I know from my own personal experience and from some people that I know and family that there are people that are reaching out that they never would suspect that would have ever taken a red pill and kind of becoming awake. And it's really a lot of that going on right now. And I think that a lot of people can see that a lot of scams have been pulled on us. Now, I don't know if there's a whole lot that we can really do except just, I always say that we just need to resist and say, we're not going to comply. We're not going to comply with what you say, but it's much easier said than done.
I agree. As soon as we say it stops, it stops. And if you notice that, once people got agitated enough to start to have all these opening up things, did you notice how quickly it opened up?
Yeah.
Like it ended. First, they were like, it's iron fist, close it down. And then as soon as everybody said, no more, enough, now we're open again. Wow. Isn't it quirky how that worked? And it's been like that through history. Every time they say enough's enough, whether it be McCarthyism or everything in between, apartheid, and enough's enough, bye-bye, we're done with it. And then it slowly disappears into the woodwork, does it not?
Indeed.
But it's going to take a resolve here. That's the thing. We all have to say no means, because I personally will not take that in my body. And I know many others who say the same thing, but they're going to try to require it to go back to work or to be able to enter food distribution areas or supermarkets. That's going to be part of the plan too, is you have to have that to be able to go into a supermarket to make sure you're not going to contaminate it, quote unquote, supermarket, get anybody sick in there, contaminate the meat or whatever it is. But wait, it's wrapped in cellophane. Like, how are you going to contaminate? Okay, it's in a can, like it's in a box already. How are you going to contaminate that? Anyway, that's part of the master plan. But if everybody says no, they can get at least a 10 to 20% no rate, then it just will fail, because it just won't work for enough people. If you just opt, and I wish more people would opt going through the lines in the TSA as well, because if they clogged up the line like they did, remember there was a strike and did it I think it was a Thanksgiving or another day, 3-day period, and it just broke down the system completely. We're like, all right, everybody go through. Just whatever, just go through. if we did that every time, every day in the airports, instead of just being sheep going through, and if we do the same thing with these, mandatory, I don't want something in my body mandatory that you haven't tested for like 3 months. Geez, you don't know what's going to happen in 20 years, 10 years. Plus, I don't really trust what's going to be put in there. That's my own feeling, though. That's my personal opinion on that. Take it for what it's worth. But if enough people say no, it just won't go forward. Always been like that in history. Just say no.
Just say we're not going to do it anymore, and we're just if everybody in mass says we're just not going to do it anymore, what are they going to do? Throw us all in jail? It's a mathematical impossibility. There's not enough of them. There just isn't. I didn't have a chance. I was going to ask earlier, David, but you held up your light. Tell us about Adapt 2030. Like I said, I think you've got over 100,000 subscribers now. Good for you. Oilseedcrops.org. What can people find when they go to your Adapt 2030 channel and oilseedcrops.org?
Well, thank you very much. And yes, thank you for everybody who's helped me come up to that 100,000 level, including yourself for getting me on several interviews and all the kind words, and then people passing information back and forth. I didn't do it. Everybody else did it. I'm kind of just the guy who made the stuff and threw it out at the wind, and people found enough value in it, moving us forward, that solutions inside, and a nice way to discuss the problem, but also look for the solutions together, because we're all in it together. That 100,000 people decided that information was worthy enough that when he puts out something else, I want to see it again. And thank you for bringing me on the program a couple of times through the past here. And when we first started on, I remember way back in the day when you had the radio program with Kay Renee, and got me and my feet wet there. I was all scared the first few shows, and nail biting, all nervous. Like now my wings are open more. And if you go to oilseedcrops.org, what I do is I take those videos on Adapt 2030, and then I have a friend of mine help me, and we turn it into a PDF. So we load it as a post, and then inside there, it's created as a PDF with all the images and all the text and all the graphs. Now, the reason I spend the time to do that is because then you can share those with other people. And if they have the information at their fingertips, and they can actually see the graphs, and you can explain it, and then they can pass it to somebody else in a usable form. That's the way it is. It's about sharing information right now, because that's the only way it can be done. And if we want to see the change we want to make, we have to be the change. So if I'm spending the time in the day to go out and create graphs and PDFs so people can share it to try to pass the message to, that's what you're going to get there, as well as links to the channel and the podcast. But it's more about creating in a PDF, so then you can read through it, the post, and see if you like what the information is. And if you find a nugget in there, download the PDF free. It's all free. And just clip out what you like and then send it on to somebody else. So then I always leave everything high res too, because I appreciate high res graphics that you can really share as an information source. And then, if you're going through the site for a month or two and you find a bunch of nuggets, then you in turn can create your own PDF of all the important stuff that you thought would make sense to, and explain it in a different way. Because maybe I use too technical of words or whatever it is, but we're still all in it together, and it will be from this point forward. So hope it helps you explain to other people to get them on board. Because like you said, James, there's a lot of people much more willing to listen to information today, because so many strange things have happened. So this is just, I really believe it's all tied to the food. And if we can all understand that it's really all tied to the food, all these control mechanisms, then we can start to break away from that right away and get more self-sufficient, like you were talking about, vertical agriculture, starting your own garden. How about neighbors come together and we use three yards, and we have all the kids help, and we have all the neighbors together in one huge giant backyard? Oh no, that's illegal in some states. Can't do it, James. Too much food. You got to get a license. Can't have that much. You got to store it. Oh, you need a FICO sanitary. You're going to store like 200 pounds of pumpkins. Oh, you need a license for that. Refrigeration's not okay. Did anybody come and inspect that? That's a $400 fee.
Isn't it ironic that we panic over? Isn't it ironic that we panic over toilet paper, which we that we can create our own food, right? We can create our own food, and we don't even take advantage of it, right? Well, we only got about a minute left, man. I wanted to talk about that.
Wrap it up
real quick. So to planting, get a good spot with good sun. Make sure you have good soil. Water it properly, and give it love and care. and keep the bugs off and the animals, and you should have some limited amount of some reasonable success. And then inside vertical growing, we only got about 30 seconds. I know you can't hit this. We didn't have time. We have to.
You hit it up, man. Finish it off. I'm really listening to what you're saying. Go with the vertical ag. What else?
Well, I mean, window boxes, you can grow that. You can grow herb like you talk about. You can grow these herbs right in your pretty small area, like in little pots inside your house. Get a closet inside your house, if nothing else. These LED lights like you have. There's always, no matter how small of a place you have, there's always a spot where you can grow something and have a little bit of dependence, because it's peace of mind too. David DeBine, we're just out of time, my friend. Adapt 2030.
And your one plant is going to make the difference. So even just one plant, please plant it.
That's right. David DeBine, sorry we're out of time, brother. Oilseedcrops.org.
Thanks for your time. Enjoy it.
Appreciate you.
See you next video.
Talk to you next time. All right, folks.
Bye.